Hello and welcome back to Oh No, Not Another Podcast. And I'm joined by Bob Euls and Snare. How are you guys doing today, gentlemen?
We are doing
Hello.
well, thanks. Bob
Hot
and
dude.
Bob Euls, dude. It's actually just one person, believe it or not.
Oh man. Okay, so just for all of those of you who are wondering, Bob is our guest today, and Snare will be my co-host or main host, whoever you like more. You guys can choose who's the host. You know what I mean? So Bob, go for it, man. What do you want to talk about? He actually invited himself on this podcast.
Yeah,
kinda
that was
did,
that was a self-invite, but I just thought it'd be a good idea to give you guys what I thought would be like a background on the podcast. So, but generally, I just want to get like a discussion going on esports and Dota-related stuff in general in the local scene. There seems to be like somewhat like a little bit of negativity around people complaining about like viewerships and sponsorships and all those. We see like plenty of articles being released every week about what South African gaming can do to increase its whatever. So I just thought we should do our part in the Dota scene and kind of just get the ball rolling, and just have a talk about things.
I mean, you can
What
see who played support, right?
Yeah.
Oh, expert analysis from our bad Snare there.
Enjoyed that, dude.
Yeah,
Right.
100% we agree. And in Dota in general, I think we kind of like this sort of thing. I don't know, CSGO have a guy named Extremes, and he's like my hero, man. He's a guy who makes YouTube content week in, week out, all the time. It's super important. So here we go. We're trying to do something for Dota too. Inspired by Bob Euls.
Inspiration is
go.
there, fam.
I thought we should discuss certain issues in our scene, and without trying to be too flamey or too negative about it, just to bring what I think are going to be issues in the future.
Right.
Yeah, so obviously we want to talk about VS Gaming, and the VS Gaming Online League is a big one for me. Because the VS Gaming Online League hasn't had any issues previously. If you had to look back when it was the DGL Gaming League, obviously they've basically monopolized gaming in like South Africa for just general people who want to game casually, and it's been fun up until now, until our scene has grown so much that people are essentially becoming professional at it. They are taking gap years, they are moving into gaming houses, and money is starting to become an option for them. And the gaming, the online league is essentially it's 150 days of gaming online, which is, if you think about it, it's silly. It's half the year, and you're playing somewhere between like 18 and 20 games over 150, even more like days. It doesn't make sense, and the scheduling behind it isn't ideal. I mean, when we played this year, the online league, we had a LAN event, and we were already playing League 2 fixtures already. And luckily, I wasn't one of the teams that had to play the week before, but I remember XD were playing Ian. I think it was a Thursday night, and the LAN started the next day. And like teams, like everyone's watching, like you don't want to like lose your strats or reveal your strats. Like it's just an issue in general. So I kind of think, because our scene is becoming more professional, that this VS Gaming League can no longer be like 150 days long. I think they're increasing it next year. Maybe 2 more teams are being added, as far as I know.
I think
Well,
so, yeah.
Yeah, from whoever won DGC, the 2 teams are coming through.
So Bob, from what paradigm are you looking at this from, right? So are you looking at it like a ladder team, or are you looking at like, your background is as a Masters player from APG for majority of the year. So as a Masters player, why does 150-day league host issues to you?
So, well, first of all, the scene's becoming more professional. We got teams like WRG, probably BVD and Sinfiber, who are basically going full time.
Right.
And in order for our scene to grow, they need to compete in as many tournaments as possible. So this includes like EU qualifiers, potentially WESG next year. So things like that. And if VS Gaming hold the monopoly over you with these contracts and these long tournaments, like it's a hindrance, right? Like you don't like you can't have that in the scene. You need the potential to be exposed internationally, and I think like the online leagues will work fine for casual gamers, and they do, and they still will. But because we professionals now, we can't afford to play one game a week over 150 days.
Also,
Right.
I definitely think as well, like building on what you're saying now, Bob, is that if you have a situation where you're locked in a way to playing in that fashion, you also don't get to play as like new games, right? You're only playing the same teams.
Yeah,
You don't get to experiment, and also you just, I guess at a point, like let's say you're second last in the log, right? You're playing over 150 days. Eventually, you'll just lose focus on it. You just won't care anymore.
exactly, and
Like the tournament matters
that
less over
was
time.
an attitude that we adopted as well. Like I won't try to hide anything. Like we didn't want to play our DGL games. They didn't really matter, and some teams were opting. Like you see a lot of forfeits, right?
Yeah,
It
right.
just it's terrible. Like you don't want to when you see like teams forfeit like minors and major opportunities. Like it's a big deal, right, for teams overseas. But for us to forfeit a DGL game, it's like whatever, you know. Like I don't care, basically.
So
And
yeah,
yeah,
I feel like it's a bit overexposed, right? So
Yeah.
it's you're so overexposed to it that it starts to become irrelevant after a while.
yeah,
And I feel
and
like that's a good point you make.
yeah. So also another point, I think, like if they make the shorter, right? Like you can fit those fixtures in like a month. Maybe like if you want to make it really hype, you can do like a 2-week online event, and you have like good production value on it. You can market it better. Like viewers will be able to follow what's going on instead of like the 1 week post on Sunday being like, oh, BVD versus APG, hype, second versus third. You know, like imagine if you had like a long event, a shorter event, sorry, but there's like more coverage on it, and like viewers can follow it, and they know that these are the times that everyone's playing at, and it just to me that just seems like more
100%.
professional and like more hype, you know, and like that's gonna attract your viewers.
Also, I think like based on what you're saying on that point, that whenever you have as a viewer, right, on the other side of things, even in the games where we're not casting, one of the most frustrating things is like eventually because of how long it takes before the teams are actually playing, right, it stops being as hype. Right, you're just like, oh, guys, they'll have been scrimming in the interim anyway. And because like most of the time the games only really count for seeding purposes.
Yeah,
It also doesn't really matter because you're going to meet the teams on LAN anyway, so you have to be prepared to try and beat WRG no matter where you place in the group, right? So it's like they become extended scrims rather than actual important matches.
exactly.
It
Yeah,
feels like a bit of a shame because it's like our top talent, right? It's the best teams that we have to put forth. It's the biggest league that we have, and always the promise of tons of money being pumped into it. But then when it actually gets down to the nitty gritty of things, you're like, okay, so I've been playing together for X amount of time. It doesn't really matter too much what's going to happen here. The team that loses, they're just going to get a rematch again on LAN anyway, so it doesn't really matter. No one's going to get kicked. I guess it's like one of the problems is that there's no stakes, right?
yeah. There's nothing to worry about losing, and I think if you so like what thing I suggested was to have like a 3-week online league before the LAN. Then people would like take it like super seriously, right? You would your seedings would be you would play over 3 weeks, and then you would go straight into a LAN event.
Yeah.
Like that just seems like really professional. It seems like really legit. From a player side, I would be like, this is really cool. And then as a spectator, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna like tune into this because these guys are gonna, show their best Dota. Basically, because they have something to compete for now.
Another different example of a tournament that I liked a lot that happened earlier this year was how Mega 8 ran their Winter Cup. It was straight up one weekend. Everybody played qualifiers from WRG down to the bottom nibble team. You know, everybody juked it out. It was an exciting weekend of qualifiers, and then next in, it was an online event, it wasn't a LAN event, but the production quality was great. The hype for the games were great.
It was really cool. Like from a player side, it was by far my favorite tournament to play in, just because it was so organized. It was really cool. Like they had a really sick panel. That panel was like unbelievable.
Yes.
Like I just tuned in for the panel like the majority of the time.
Yes, that panel was legit, dude.
Yeah, like
shout out to our Snare who was a guest on that panel, man.
And like it was so PogJump, and like that's the potential that we have, and I just think And VS Gaming, like VS Gaming production, like I know we're flaming VS Gaming a lot here, but like what their production level at the LAN for both LANs at EGE, actually for all the LANs they had this year, it's been like so cool and like really good.
On that point, actually, with VS Gaming, there was a guy in Cape Town that I was speaking to, and he was he was one of the videographers down there, and he worked for some French company for a while. He was telling me, and he was saying that like the people there were telling him, "Whoa, who did you guys hire to do this production thing? These people are legit."
Yeah, it was,
Like,
it was so
that's
professional.
amazing.
It was just
EG,
it was kind of weird because like you felt like a proper like professional celebrity and like people following you around on cameras. Okay, it wasn't me, but like I could see it happening. It was just like really cool and like you felt like this is going somewhere.
Felt like a boss.
Yeah, but that needs to be extended throughout the year, I think, and not just at the lands. It needs to be a continual like process that happens all the time and not over like 150 days. You know what I'm saying? Where like nothing happens.
So now, okay, so we spoke about how the VS leg runs, and although we're not too happy about the length and duration of the league, we do see the value in like Rage is also another good example of their production. The ESL Quest stand was there, which was a lot of people thought were amazing, but VS stand was also at Rage doing CS:GO, and I must say I was very, very impressed with that. It was, I would say, maybe even a little better than the production of the EGE one, and I was super impressed.
The VS Gaming CS because ESL ran into so many technical issues. So like, and they were like the production value was just as good as the ESL.
100%.
Yeah.
So now, on a contrast, what do you think of now we have the Mega 8 sort of Pro 16 league coming up now, which the top 4 teams of each groups, which is 2 groups of 8, qualify into the Summer Cup. What do you think of this sort of maybe shorter term league and how they're trying to do things in their second approach of tournaments for this year?
It's kind of refreshing when they bring what is that format called again? The GSL? What's it called?
Swiss
the
system, yeah.
Yeah, Swiss. It's quite cool. Not the biggest fan of best of ones, but like everyone's in the same boat, right? So it doesn't really matter. Best of one can go both ways, and it's kind of refreshing to have a different tournament style. Obviously, once you understand it, it gets a bit easier because sometimes people just don't know what's going on. But they did a good job of explaining that, and I thought it was really cool that they had like a pre-qualifier, give like other teams an opportunity to be showcased. Yeah, it's just I think I obviously prefer shorter tournaments.
Speculation about
on that point actually about our tournaments, right? Especially how Mega is doing it. What do you guys think about invites to tournaments? Because on the one hand, I do think that obviously there's, so for instance, with the Mega 8 Pro 16 league, right? Half the teams were invited, half of them had to qualify. Qualifying legs are always cool, but then the argument could potentially be made that nobody except like the previous winner should be invited to any.
I agree with you 100%. I think that's how it should be.
Okay, yeah, this was actually an issue. I just remember this now from like many years ago, and like there was a big complaint about it on, I think it might have been the Dota 2 Facebook group, where teams were complaining, the top teams were complaining about playing qualifiers.
Yeah. And
they were just saying it's a waste of time for them because they're playing all these scrub teams and they're just stomping them in like 20 minutes and things like that. What's the point of playing qualifiers when you're just going to stomp half of them? That was their argument. Like it's just a waste of time for them. It's basically what they were saying.
But I don't know though. But I feel like even if it is a waste of time for them, it's not only them that the tournament is for, right? Like it might be a waste 100%. Of time, say, for WRG to play against Nibble, but there's still value for Nibble in playing against WRG, right? There's still a lot they can learn about the game. Losing to a good team generally, like how else do you improve at Dota?
Yeah.
Except for playing against better teams. But then if you're the only, like even as the better teams, right? Even like let's think about WRG. The rise of WRG as they came up. I think a lot of the reason why they were able to make such a splash when they got good and they did was because of the fact that they were playing Dota in a way that other top teams at the time weren't necessarily playing. So they brought a new understanding to the game of Dota, and I'm not sure you can necessarily do that, get that understanding if you only play against the same opponents.
Yeah, so I mean, the simple way around it is to literally just invite the winner. And then you
Yeah.
got the rest of the teams who can compete against each other to qualify for seedings or something like that.
Well, while we're talking about Mega 8 and the Swiss system, I think let's carry on. Like, if you're a top team, you have to play one weekend, 5 best of ones, or if you 3-0 for the day, 3 best of ones. Can you really complain about that? Even if you WRG? I don't think so.
No, that was fine. I don't think you need to remember that WG want to play Dota as well.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think when it comes to maybe like these bigger tournaments, where there's like 32 teams or like a Ballistics Cup or a Crucial Cup or whatever they used to call it.
Yeah.
I think they used to play like qualifiers for those, and I think they stopped doing that. I think teams just started to get in like top seeds like in the group immediately, and then the rest had to like play to enter the group or something. Can't remember how it was back then because that's when I just started playing as well. But I think teams will be happy to play Dota, to be honest, as long as it's competitive. Like, I don't think you want to be playing against like bad teams, really, who are like way below your skill level. Kind of just a waste of time for everyone, really. I know, like, you can say that the worst team can learn a lot, but it's not usually the case.
It can be a situation where, like, I remember when BVD used to play against anybody that wasn't WRG, and there's just like 11-minute stomps with like 5 pushing heroes. I mean, you really learn stuff from that. It's just debatable.
I remember those days, dude. I was there. They picked 5.
Getting this come up.
They level 1 rushed us, dude. I remember that. Donnie was all chatting us, and they were in level. They were rushing. We got faded.
That's so funny.
WRG level 1 rush.
I mean, we lost this in 5, and they did a level 1 rush at the EGE.
Oh,
we still lost that game.
Yeah, that was so funny. That was the best thing in the world.
You know, we saw Jakira's attack fire animation. That's how we knew.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
wait,
from
this is
outside the
fishy.
pit.
Yeah.
Because I remember Traxine was running around, and I was like kind of chasing him. And like, then I saw Chikira Jewel Breath, I was like, X. They're rushing.
Something's happening here. Something's fishy. I'm not sure.
We still lost, dude. Feels bad.
Actually, something I've always been curious to ask you, Bob, is how did you guys make that run happen at EGE? Like, what happened? Because, as far as I understand it, the agreement was, or not the agreement, but the understanding was that you guys were all going to do your separate ways after the tournament regardless, like no matter what the result was.
Yeah.
And often that leads to despondency, like in the team itself. So how did you guys, and also your guys' results weren't great, like in the lead up to
we
the
just
LAN
had,
itself.
like,
So what happened?
roster changes the whole year. So everyone was like kind of was over it. Like, we had enough is enough. We had quite a sick boot camp, and like we all similar players. Like we all think quite similarly. Like O'Malley, Phalanx, and even Conspiracy to a certain extent. We're all like pretty chilled players. So, and like we think about Dota quite similarly. And I'm not sure how the run actually happened because we're actually in the loser bracket.
Ever since.
And we lost the first game against. We lost initially to Pulse. And that was like, everyone was saying Pulse would be the easiest game ever, and I was like, it's not going to be that easy. And well, everyone's like, we lose a game, we might as well just like kill ourselves. Because like, that's how bad we thought Pulse were. And I think we just totally, we underestimated them. I think Wisemac just went ham. But after that game, it was just like, it was really weird. We were like really chilled, and like we just spoke immediately about it, and we were like, this is what happened, this is what went wrong. Like we just identify our own faults like straight away. Like players were quite accountable for their own mistakes, and then we just moved on straight away. And like when we lost the first game to Sin 5, it was kind of like a pocket strat of ours, and then we lost the pocket strat, which is quite weird. We had like a Zeus Spectre barrel lineup, which we thought was like absolutely broken, but we ended up losing. I don't know, we just kept it positive, man. We like AVG have always like just performed with our backs against the wall. Like even the years before Rage, where we lost the first game against BVD in the winners bracket, and we ended up beating them twice in a row.
That was probably actually, I think that was the best game ever like played at Rage overall. All things considered.
Those games were hype, man.
Yeah.
I thought I'm still go back and watch the replays.
That was like TI3 final type stuff, man.
So like, I don't know, it was even like sometimes probably someone even mentioned that, dude. This is like our BVD game, guys. We lose the first series. And then we go on and win, like I don't know, it was never a point where like anyone was negative or anyone was down. It was just like everyone was just still like super positive. And we just believed in each other, I think. Really.
I mean, just like speaking about that, and I think like speaking about that positivity and that level of calm. I mean, watching the latest True Side episode about Liquidity International. I mean, just watching what Kuroki told to his team during the final game is have fun, enjoy the game, don't think about winning. That kind of buzz I thought it was absolutely insane. I thought he was one of the greatest captains. I had a newfound respect of Kuroki after that game. Like I always hear Kuroki greatest captain ever, but actually hearing him in the booth, what he tells his players, and the kind of respect that like Miracle and GH, Matu, all those guys have for him was pretty insane.
Yeah, dude, that's when the real FedEx comes out, guys. When FedEx is just like, hey guys, this is what we need to do to win the game. And everyone's like, oh, okay. And then we just go do what he does and we win, dude.
Let's be honest though, speaking of TI, it probably helped a lot the fact that we just outcompeted every game. Dota seems pretty easy to win when you win the draft, right?
Yeah. Kuroki God.
Kuroki God. And also, like, I feel like, can you really lose at TI if you have GH on your team?
GH, Mind Control, Miracle, Matumba Man, all the best players in my opinion.
GH Miracle is just getting bigger and bigger. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
Like, now you have to ban like, what do you ban? First phase against Liquid now. It's like, you got Earthspirit, you got Earthshaker, you got Kotal, you got IO. Like, you only got 2 bans, bro. Like, you still got to ban Necro and Veno. Like, what's happening?
Those are great heroes. So, actually, speaking of those heroes, because everybody's always thinking about them in cancerous terms in an SA, you can add Lich and Spirit Breaker, right? This is the contentious issue, right? Everybody hates this meta. Everybody if you go on Reddit right now, or even on the Zaga forum, you're thinking about #still meta, give patch, please.
Yeah.
We all spoke about it, right? And none of us think that's the case. So, what do you, as the ex-player, Bob? What do you think is this meta as bad as people say? Is it actually that garbage?
Unfortunately, I haven't played much comp Dota lately. But watching the Star Data series, like the metas, I think is in such a good place right now. We see like first pick chains, enchantresses. Of course, there's like the odd Lich or Doom. It's a bit. I find it very strange that we don't see much Spirit Breaker. Maybe that's just a South African thing.
I think like some of the C teams play it a lot, but it's not a regular pick for anybody except us.
Yeah, there seems to be. Of course, there's going to be different metas for different areas. Like, I don't think the Chinese value Earthshaker too much.
Yeah, to their detriment, they lost every game as Star Ladder.
Yeah, and it's incredible. Like, yeah, I think the pub meta is extremely stale though. To get 4 randoms to cooperate against like a Necro Veno is really hard, and these lineups that just punish lack of discipline in Dota, like in general gameplay, is just really hard to play against. So I think that's probably why everyone's complaining, right? Because like you don't burst the Necro, you don't burst the Veno, you basically the team fight's being turned around and you just lose.
Right. So for pubs, I agree. I mean, it's just bad Necroforce every ranked game I play and stuff. It's really hard to deal with. But I agree with you 100%. In competitive meta, I feel like it's so open here. I mean, last year in TI6, Wings got praised so much for their versatility and stuff, which was amazing. Mind you, don't take anything away from them. But this year at TI7, there was more heroes picked than there was at TI6 in the total hero rules picked. So I think that's pretty amazing. And even heroes that weren't touched, like Bane, was not picked at TI7 at all. But now, for Team Secret, Puppy is enjoying the hero Bane. He picks it a lot. Like, that just shows, like, the sheer versatility of the meta at the moment, in competitive Dota at least. It's just insane.
Yeah, I think any hero, you can make any hero work. You just need the right
Did you guys
draft,
see
really.
Hey God pull out that because one of the things like that, speaking of Star Ladder, did you guys like when he pulled out the support Naga Sign to counter that Venomancer pick? I was amazed. It was so great.
Dude, this is Phalanx actually mentioned it the other day. Well, not the other day, but like when Veno was a popular pick, he was like, I'm sure you can just pick Naga, just like sleep when he ulties and just run away. Well, you can eventually get Ags as well and you just heal your whole team.
Yeah.
That was like the theory behind it, but then you need to execute Pos 4 Naga, which is quite hard. I remember we did it in a scrim, I think. And it didn't go so well. Yeah, but that was just an experiment. But like, you can see like on a higher level, like it works, right?
Yeah. I think like the main thing with Dota, right, is what we're mentioning about the issue with pub is that getting the entire team to coordinate against the network developer. Like I feel like most Dota right now can like 80% of the game it feels like it's decided by the drafts, 15% by coordination in team fights, and only like 5% by pure skill and like pure outclassing.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult. It's been a while since I've seen a team decisively beat another team purely on the merit of being mechanically better than them.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen. Not
yeah.
not a pro level. Okay, you'll see the odd flashy player that may like turn a team fight, but it won't be like game decisive.
Which is a good thing, right? Feels like
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Definitely. I feel like Dota's got to a stage where like everybody, at least in competitive Dota, is so good now. Like every team has like this 9K player, and it's so tight now that sort of strategy, it's just become so much more strategic and so much more draft reliant.
Yeah.
And a lot of the pros have been coming out saying that when PPD, Big Ego himself has to come and say that teams are really, really close now, and it's more than just being better than your opponent to win. And you gotta start thinking about things. Now, gentlemen, so we spoke about VS Gaming, one of the major Dota 2 tournament hosts. We spoke about Mega 8 and the things we like seeing them do. What about it's a bit of a controversial topic at the moment, Arena? What do you guys think about how they doing things? Dota and the rest of the stuff they do.
Yeah, so I know Arena do a lot of stuff on the side. They do a Street Fighter comp. They host spectator events at like
Pokemon Go
and stuff.
days. I feel like those little events they do. I attend a lot of them, most of them in Joburg, just because they're fun. I really like them. I think Luca and the team do a really good job with that. But in terms of how they're running the Dota League, it's a bit questionable, so to speak.
Yeah, I think they made quite a big mistake, or something happened. They just aren't being like straightforward with everyone regarding the Dota and the CS and the online leagues. There's something like shady about it, which I'm not too sure. And I know Sargon tried to write an article about it, and someone wrote another article about it today that they released. I don't know if you guys read it.
There was a new article today.
What happened?
It was a critical hit thing. Criticalhits.net or critical.net.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Critical hit. That is PA or what. But they basically just voiced Sargon's concerns. And they were saying, this is what they were concerned about, is like, if Arena can get away with not paying money that they promised to the ladder leaders, then it's going to set like a bad temperament going forward for other organizers. Because they've promised like these R1 million tournaments, they promised accommodation in Emperor's Palace, and at the LAN events there's going to be this and there's going to be that, and there's even like a Street Fighter LAN event I saw.
Fight nights, that's later this year.
Yeah, and they're also offering like quite a
50K.
substantial prize pool for that. Obviously I'm not a fan of the online league, and it wasn't even administrated in any form or sense. We forfeited almost all our games because we just didn't care anymore, because it wasn't even being casted. It wasn't even like there was like, it felt like nobody cared. They didn't even feel like there was any organizer involved at all.
I think a big thing
stop playing. Yeah.
For me in regards to Arena is, let's say smooth sailing, everything's all fine, all the money's getting paid all well and on time, right? Okay, that's happening, but so you're putting this big massive prize pool, but I think what Arena has really showed us is that prize pool isn't enough. Like they do a lot of really good small events and stuff that I go to, and people really have a good time there. But they Dota League, the ladder, and even to the top level, just there was no organization around it. It was just like, okay, these games are scheduled, guys, go play. There was nothing really, no build up to the games, no even managing towards the league. Like it is.
Yeah.
I feel like having those kind of people there running your league is a really, really important thing. So I don't know, maybe Arena going forward for me in future, if they take maybe 50K of that money and give it to some people to actually run the league, give it to casters to actually cast their games, stream their games, even take 100K to put it in actually building a good competitive league for viewers, players, spectators, all alike, Yeah, I think that'll be a much better thing than just having 5 million rand or whatever they're offering. 700,000 rand for the
When I first started playing Dota a few years back competitively, I think Arena was like the second biggest tournament by far. I think they had like galaxy battles and things like that, like on a regular like occurrence. I think it's something that just maybe slipped away a bit. Maybe their focus is elsewhere.
I think the thing with Arena is probably like shows a bit of what's emblematic in the issues in SA, right? Where there's a huge focus on prize pools, a huge focus on massive tournaments that get a lot of coverage, but the difficulty is that nobody really knows, no one's really actually had this full, complete, concise conversation about, okay, guys, what do we do to not just make money and not just get the viewers, but to make this long-term tenable?
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing that's I think probably why DGL and like VS Gaming ended up having the monopoly as they do. It felt like they were the only company that was really interested in that super ultra long-term engagement. Everybody else would come in for rage, have a great tournament and then say, shut guys, you're on your own. Kind of like, so like the Republicans when it comes to abortion. But I think like with Arena, one of the things that could be the issue, right, is that it often happens when you have too many pies, too many fingers and too many pies, things can go south. And as far as I know, Luca and his team handle things just by themselves. They don't have like additional people.
Yeah, that's something we don't see really from where we are. It's like there was this very similar story with DJL. Like they had like 3 people running all the legs and all the online events, and it's just too much for like a small like number of staff.
100%.
There's a lot of work. Right?
Yeah,
I agree. Like that's the thing. I feel like SA Esports is in a funny place right now because it looks like it's getting really big. Like I think this year is bigger than any other year I've seen in South African esports. But it's also, I think, when we all inside of it, it looks so much bigger than it really is, And you gotta still understand that we still have a long way to go, I think.
Yeah, definitely. The tendency to sort of go too big too soon. I think we need to nail down the basics. Get the basics down, and then we can look forward to putting more money in things. And because for me, there always seems to be about attracting viewership. That seems to be the big one. I know Sam does a lot of articles about viewership and stuff, and she gets quite hype about it. But she says there's about 130,000 people from South Africa who use Twitch per month. That's like what? That's almost like 5,000 a day. A bit less, like 4,500 a day. Obviously, you got to take into account that like not everyone watches Dota, not everyone plays CS. So, Twitch offers other things. They're like,
100%.
Why aren't these people watching the local streams? It's basically what you were saying. So there's X amount of people, and 5,000 a day. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
5,000 people is a lot, dude.
Do you think like if I'm Alienware and I want to sponsor an esports team or I want to sponsor a Twitch stream, and you need to remember that like when they advertise something on a Twitch stream, that's hitting like 95% of their target market. Like people who are seeing that are gonna use computers, are gonna need like computer products. So like when you advertise to like 5,000 people, like 5,000 of those people use computers,
Yeah.
So, but like where are those viewers? Why aren't they watching our local tournaments? That's like the big question, I think.
So she was positing that a lot of it has to do with like apathy towards South African products and the fact that we're still very much, as a nation, in general, we still prioritize the overseas market far way and above our own. I think like one of the issues as well that probably comes up when it comes to viewership with SA people is that there's still this idea very often that SA people don't know what they're talking about. Like whenever you have SA people, whenever we're streaming, right, or if we're casting a game or whatever, it takes, from personal experience, I can tell you it takes years before other South African people are willing to say, okay, this person is just not some trash dude that doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's actually legit at this thing.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
We're so bad at supporting each other, actually, in fact. I think is the main problem.
It's like you have this tendency to like want the African rugby team to fail. Like like I don't want like South Africans to lose at anything. But like sometimes it's a very strange mentality. I think it's true. Yeah, Kaameel is laughing, but he knows it's right.
It's true. It's true. South African mentality is really funny. But I also have like, I think everybody here in SA has their own reason about viewership and this and that. But I feel like we do lack in some departments. The little things again come into play. Like I feel like for all these leagues, VS, Mega 8, all these things, there's no like good place to like go and actually look at results, right? When the games are done, There's no like if you follow a Premier League game, by the second people are there's apps tweeting scores, this, that. But I mean, all I'm asking for is a simple thing. If VS or Mega 8 are hosting a tournament, when the games are done, I'd like a Facebook post of who won and who lost, right?
Yeah.
Things like stream schedules. Usually how it works is that, okay, a caster's casting this game, he knows a week before or day before the day of the event, like 4 hours before. Oh, guys, APG are playing BVD at this time, 8 o'clock. I'm catching here. Right, that's all good and well, and casters should be doing that, no less. But like, we also need to have like a published schedule. If VS Gaming have or VS Mega 8, whoever, have a day, we're going to be playing from this time to this time every week at this time. Tune in here. This team will be playing this week. This team will be playing that week. You know, like that. I think that is really big things. It will help a lot. Just the little things. You know, we can just improve on those kind of things. A good example was during the last Mega 8. The Winter Cup, during the qualifiers, we had a guy, what is his name? Chadley Kemp, doing media stuff. He was so on point. Every game, before every round, he made a post about all the fixtures. He linked all the streams, all the people who were streaming.
That was really helpful, by the way. Like,
it was insane. Even to organize us casters, he had a whole spreadsheet document saying this guy's casting this game, this guy's casting that game, and I was blown away. And I thought he made such a big difference. And they were, what do you call that, boosting posts as well, so people could see, reaching more people, different audiences. It makes it so much, just little things like that make it so much more professional, you know? I feel like I'm ranting here, but I feel like you guys catching my feels here.
It's a classic, like, business thing of, like, spend money to make money, right? Like, you gotta put in the effort and the rewards will show. Or, like, if that analogy makes sense to you guys.
Yeah,
it does. I think like the thing about SA, right, with regards to being able to actually have that one-stop shop, is because of the like we all operate under this loose affiliation association. Like we have, so for instance, after any tournament, right, you'll have one person.
Translate that to English for us, man. That was complex, dude.
Like you'll have somebody in the community that's actually forced to go out and shout and say, okay, everybody else, I watched these games. This is what happened during the thing, right? So there's nobody in an official capacity that does these things. Like we have to. It feels like we're at the same time we're overly regulated, but at the same time we don't want it. Like, can you imagine if somebody was? It would be great. I know Austin would like somebody whose entire job it was to, from DGL or from Mega 8, to say, okay, these are the fixtures. This is what's happening. This is the way that the tournament's going forward. But at the same time, I don't know. I kind of feel like this goes back to the point you were mentioning earlier, Bob, where you say you don't want to get too big too soon, right? And I think at the stage we're at as a community, it's still kind of helpful to have that sort of grungy community feel to it, where like, okay, we know that this one guy who's in no way affiliated with the tournaments is the guy that we're going to get all our news from. Usually it's Sargon, who's going to give us the lowdown, give us the hype. And we also know, because he is not affiliated with everybody, he's going to give us his own opinion as unbiased as possible.
Right.
Which is a good thing, but it's also that thing of like, how do you balance, on the one hand, keeping that community aspect, but also increasing the professionalism of it? Because obviously, if the community's the one people that are providing this thing, if they're late, for example, you can't necessarily expect that they decide, oh, okay, we can't be mad at them, right? It's like, well, it's not their job really at this point.
Yeah. It's probably a more complex issue than we can probably discuss at the moment.
It's complex, but I also think, like Snare says, we said earlier, even, it takes time, right? We're still small scale. We'll hopefully, I would like to believe we get there. We're getting there. We are making progress, but it's just good to be talking about these things, you know? We're trying to bring solutions, you know? We're not just pulling the classic Donny Flame, SA is trash here.
SA is definitely on the rise, dude.
Speaking of SA, did you guys all watch the games this weekend, right? From Mega 8.
Yeah, majority.
I was casting them.
No, yeah, you were casting them. I was also casting most of them, right? But like, one of the things that I was thinking about as I was watching a lot of these games is that some of these teams, it feels like, will rise up the totem pole to start challenging the top 4 teams. Like, not right now, but it doesn't feel like it's like watching a lot of, especially in particular, the teams I'm thinking of is Epoch, Alpha Star, and there was one other team that really caught my attention. No, it wasn't Goliath. It was.
Shots fired.
Nibble Horde. Maybe.
It might have been Nibble.
Epoch as well, and I thought they have some. They're a team to watch.
Yeah, but it was definitely Nibble. I remember it was Nibble because there was one game where they had a really interesting draft. and they think they picked last pick. Was it them or the other team? Somebody picked last pick Zeus, and that was garbage. But the pick was bad, but the way they played it was actually kind of interesting. And I think like those three teams are going to be very interesting to watch. Like primarily because what we were talking about earlier, right? The new style of Dota that even the Masters teams, like you can beat. Let's say they play against Pulse or something or APG, right? And they lose. I don't think it's going to be whitewashes from these quote-unquote bottom 8 qualified teams. I actually suspect that not most, but I don't think the bottom 8 is going to be all these teams. Right? I feel like a lot of them are actually going to make it through into the top 4 of their groups. And that's always interesting. That's always a new challenge. But the bigger thing for me is the fact that all of these people are relatively unknown. And we've seen what can happen in Dota whenever you have that massive information asymmetry, right? The person who studied the most eventually gets figured out. And we were talking about this the other day behind the scenes. At EGE, when XCC played WRG, and they got to quote unquote the last game 4, gave 1 game advantage. That's also something that's pretty bad. Please, tournaments, never do that. Never have a finals with a 1 game advantage. But I actually I feel like I have a different view from you guys. I suspect that even if they lost the games, I think XCC would have started out drafting them thereafter. I actually think they could have won that. Like if it wasn't for the fact that they went to that the final game they played, they picked Wisp into Spirit Breaker. Feels bad, man.
I think that series. I think WRG just got out drafted 3 games in a row, but I think they won the first game. So it was it was 2-0, right? And then they pulled it back to 2-2.
Yeah.
So that first game that they lost, I think XCC were like, I think Dota and Dow was playing Tusk, I think, if I remember correctly, and he just missed an R shot.
Yes, you was Tusk.
And
I remember
was it Coddle Blast or something?
Yeah, it was that gank on mid where they tried to kill
got a triple kill, and then the game was
kind of over then. Right?
They was playing Shadowfiend, I think.
Shadowfiend, yes, SF, yeah. The shots missed him as well as the Coddle Blast missed him as well. And then he turned in triple rage.
Then Defi would have snowballed, I think. And the game would have been over because, that was, and I thought that was a complete outdraft because I thought, I was very surprised that Chadawi didn't ban Quap because I know Quap is probably the only hero you put against SF Clock, that matchup. It's the only hero that can do really well. So that they got outdrafted 3 games out of 4 or whatever, how many it was. It was a pity that was a 1 game advantage.
Right.
But that's what I'm talking about, right? Normally, we mostly all agree that WRG usually wins because of the fact that they're a better team than most people, if not necessarily because of their drafting prowess. But usually they still end up outdrafting their opponents, right? And that was one of the few situations in which they got completely outdrafted all the time, and they were forced to rely purely on their skill. But I can't imagine that going into the tournament. Sure, they probably expected to play XCC, but they were also we've beaten them so many times, we don't have to study them as much. And all the teams that are coming into this from the qualifiers, right, have far more incentive to study the invited teams than the other way around. Which also means that since now I still think that the game is much more draft heavy. If you're not prepared to deal with a draft that counters your playstyle, then what? Then what do? You just lose the game.
Yeah. So that's what I think WG's biggest issue going forward is, especially if they want to compete on the EU stage. Is my personal opinion is that they really do need a coach, and they need to develop a game plan, a game style. They can't just go about drafting how they are drafting and playing whatever they're doing right now. It's just not going to work on the EU scene where you see these teams execute proper game plans and execute their drafts properly. I think WG kind of lacking in that sense right now, and I think they need some outside help, or they need something to help them right now if they want to make it on a EU stage.
You think they have
on that
potential?
note, Bob? On that note, I'd like to say I think that's what you see. Dota coaches are more involved in Dota now with the recent change Valve made, that coaches can be in the booth during the draft, and I feel like esports teams need to stop looking within esports and then look out to outside sports, to real sports, and see the kind of attention to details that's taken there. There's a coach, there's a nutritionist, there's a psychologist, there's this, and esports is going to get to that at some stage. So now people are still skeptical about coaches in Dota, but if you look at pro teams in Dota, in fact, so many teams are now moving towards getting coaches, and I feel like that could be a big thing for WRG. I 100% agree.
Yeah, especially if they want to, go the next step. Because I don't think any of them are content where they are right now. I do think they improved a lot since they got in the gaming house. Do I think they have the best 5 players in SA? No. But that's maybe something else to talk about another time.
Ooh, actually, who's your guys' top 5? If you were to make a dream team SA team,
A
who'd you
dream
put on
team SA
all-
team.
Dream team SA team, yeah.
Okay, you go first, Bob. I'll go next.
I'm gonna go Castaway mid. Wealth on carry, Charles. Nick Pos 5. Nick Dota Pos 5. Filthy Frank Pos 4. Gonna have to put
Off-laner.
Deppy in somewhere. Deppy will be the offlaner.
Why don't you take
Deppy
Donnie in the
off-
offlane?
No, Donnie's an EU player, dude.
Oh, you're calling him an
He's a-
EU
he's a-
player?
He's an EU player. He betrayed us, dude. No, I'm joking.
SA player,
If
man.
Donnie
He's-
counts in offlane,
He's
yeah.
a bravado player, come on.
I actually 100% agree with that draft. That's exactly how I
I
draft
think,
the
I'll
5
be
best
honest,
in SA.
I think BVD, I think WG missed an opportunity to get Filthy Frank in their team. I think they should have done that. In the
Well,
long
instead
term, it
of-
could have been better, but I think Olu was like the short term answer.
No,
Well, I don't even think it's a short-term answer because Odu hasn't played Pos 5 for this whole year. He played carry at the start of the year for Energy, and then he was playing Pos 5 for Energy in the later part of the year.
Was
Filthy
he playing
Frank
4? Because
in
Abdul
no,
was
he was playing Pos 5. Abdur was playing Pos 4.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
And then, in my opinion, from all the games I casted and watched this year, which has been many, as all of you know, I believe Filthy Frank has been the best Pos 4 to the end of the year. I'd like to say Santo maybe in WRG, but it's hard for me to tell how good WRG players against other SA teams because they just ruffle stomp 95% of the time. But I've been really impressed with Filthy Frank. I think the decision for Odu, not taking anything away from him as skill, I just think he hasn't been proven as Pos 4 this year. But I think him and the WRG guys have a personal relationship, you know, that him and Schlinks and Castaway, they went to China together. They have that sort of bond, you know, and I think it's kind of important in a way that you have that kind of thing, especially if they're living together all the time, being together, training together 6-7 hours a day.
Yeah,
it is important.
Yeah,
but in terms of skill, I agree that Filthy Frank is better for sure.
Also, didn't Frank
In
want
Pos
to
4.
play
In
with...
Pos 4.
He specifically wanted to play with Deppy this season, right? So
Yes, he did.
And it's unlikely that WRG were gonna kick Castaway.
Yeah, never.
Like, so
never.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. So it had to be
I guess they could have got Mark to kick him, maybe.
employ the RDK.
That'd be like
ultimate.
the ultimate, actually, if Filthy Frank had to kick Castaway, dude.
Oh, man. I mean, he kicked the RD kick, dude. The RD kick man himself, he got to kick him, so
It's bad.
nobody's off limits for Filthy Frank, man.
You know who
So-
I'd actually put? Okay, so in my dream team for the season, I would have, obviously it has to be Frank on Pos 4, Abdul Pos 5, Habibi Pos 5, probably Donny Pos 3. I don't want to pick Costa as well, so I put Deppy Pos 2, and then my carry would be. I don't want the team to be too good at carry.
You know, that like sacrificial carry, you know.
Yeah, I want like that no-tail style carry, man. But you already took Well, who plays that kind of style. Maybe Hunter, but Hunter will never play without Fury. Because there will be sacrifices if Hunter plays.
That's savage. You know, I'm actually gonna make a public shout out and say I think in the next 2 years, Hunter will be in the top 3 carries.
Oh, I thought
in
you
SA.
say he's gonna have 5k
Yeah.
MMR in the next.
You
few
know,
years.
the guy. I keep ripping on Hunter, but I think Hunter has phenomenal potential. Like, there's very often, I think Hunter's one of those players. You know, I think you can adjudicate whether or not a player is going to be great in the future. You assess how many games are won or lost because of him, right? And you're like, okay, like normally when you watch XD play, right? If they win, Hunter did well. If they lose, Hunter did badly. And that probably tells you that this guy is going to be big at some point when he gains that pure consistency. When Hunter's good, he's really, really good. But when things go south, it's not always the happiest situation. But that's good, right? Because he's like a lot of our players are young right now. Like some of them are more professional, but a lot of them are still kids coming either in high school, coming out of high school, or in the early years of varsity. So there's a lot more room to grow. Like,
Right.
There's basically no teams right now that have people that can't really get better, right?
For sure. So on that note, guys, who do you guys think is the most? Who's the player that's impressed you guys the most this year?
This
Yes,
year,
yes,
Even
Dota.
most.
Dota and Die.
Dota and Die for you, Snare?
Yeah.
For you, Bob Euls?
I want to say
You have to give
Adam,
a different
actually.
name. But that's them.
Yeah, just from playing with him. I mean, we kicked him in the beginning of the year because we didn't think we could ever win anything with him. But he's obviously changed his ways, and like he's just solid now. He's just like it's good.
Participates in team fights.
Yeah, it's just like really good.
No, that's just, speaking of Addiston, right? Something very interesting about him that I realized from his move from you guys when you were playing with XCC is that his average GPM, I believe, is lower now than it used to be, but his kill involvement is way higher.
Yeah.
This was even before he went towards the mid lane. Like he would, because I remember a lot of the time what would happen when you were still playing on that old APG. Like a lot of the template would be the same, right? ACG creating space on some mid farmer while
we would
Addiston
run around
hits
with 4
creeps
people.
forever.
Yeah.
And joins the game, but now he'll be like, it's fine if I'm not farming creeps for this minute or two, but can just farm heroes. How much gold you get out of killing heroes nowadays?
I think Sin 5 also a team to watch.
Definitely.
I think they are something that they have something that WG doesn't have, and they have, obviously, I'm not even going to say the coach, but they have like a game plan, a structure.
I'm going to say the coach straight up.
Yeah, okay, but with the coach gives them that, right? They have like timings, they have certain drafts that they like play, like pocket strats, all these things, right? That I think if WG had that, they would be terrifying. Like, what would you do against WG if they had like 3 or 4 pocket strats that you knew they ran, and they could like, hit their timings and do all these things against you? You wouldn't even have a chance.
I mean, that could end up happening for them, right? There was a time when WG used to have that Chen strat that he used to run every now and then, and before Chen became bad, now Chen's good again, so they could try to go back to that jungling type of meta where instead of just purely getting kills in the early game, because a lot of the game, like WG doesn't take towers as fast as other teams do, even though they snowball super hard off the laning phase. So yeah, there's a possibility that comes back. What do you think?
I mean, you guys didn't ask me who's my pick for best player this year or most impressive player this year.
What do you think, bro? Take your time.
You guys can take a guess. I'm just gonna say no bias before I say my statement.
Oh yeah.
But TKC Dota, man.
How about the rules are you can never pick a player that lives in your house?
All right. Okay. So if not TKC Dota, I would say Filthy Frank has impressed me the most. On the topic of those two players, what do you guys have to say?
TKC is, I think, like next year it's going to be very difficult to say who's better between TKC, Castaway, and Deppy. Kid is really, really, really good and only getting better. I think like the thing with players like TKC is that we haven't yet seen him get close to his actual peak of Dota. So this is still him in his grinding and development phase. So he only gets better from here. And Filthy Frank has just been, I don't know, like there hasn't been a better support all year than Filthy Frank, really. Like, across all respects.
I would agree with that. I think maybe Habibi would be the only guy close to him.
Yeah.
And they're playing the same team now, so.
Agreed to both. I think the thing that impresses me about my brother, right, it's not that I think that he's like much better than anybody else. I always tune in Mark is better than him here at home, just for the lols. But I like I've been watching him play Dota for 3 years since he said he wants to start and become a professional Dota player, and like the level of work ethic the guy has, he never ever gets tilted or rages as his team. I can count on my hand how many times the guy's been late to practice, and I would say half of those times was my fault because I took him out somewhere. And it just baffles me because I would say I'm a bit of a slacker personality. I'm like, I'll do it later, and I just having like my brother in the house who's just like so dedicated to the stuff he does. It's just really good. I think it's like core values as a person you need to have to be successful in a team or anything in life. That
being said, guys, can we talk about how much practice a lot of these teams are putting in of late?
No, they're just waiting for the new patch though, man.
Yeah. I mean, not right now when people aren't playing because they're waiting for the new patch, but I mean in general, like a lot of these teams are actually playing Dota. Because I remember earlier this year, there was a big problem where a lot of the teams weren't actually playing Dota that much. Like people only get serious about practice just before a tournament. But now that it's supposed to be serious all year round and people want to qualify for other events besides just the few things on local shows.
Like we'll see WG will play all the time. BVD will play all the time. Sin 5 will play all the time. XD practice a lot. Ian will start to play a lot again. Other teams,
I'm hopeful, gentlemen. I am so hopeful.
Goliath play a lot.
GG do play a lot. I was really skeptical about that team.
Epoch also play quite a bit, I think.
But yeah, things are looking good for SA Dota. So on last note, boys, anything you guys like to add to this also delightful podcast we had?
Yes, I do have one thing to add. This goes out to anybody who's still playing in-house league, which it's a great thing to do sometimes. But please, 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 please stop picking Lich first pick every game. That'll make the game much more enjoyable.
On that note, actually, I'm also gonna make a shout out to ACG Dota for going and organizing Face It. Give us some service and just to the open dev Face It or whatever you want to call it. The consistency of the play there is just obscene. Well done to you guys, man. Well done.
Yeah,
Bob.
Shout out to Metal State.
Thank you everybody for tuning in and goodbye.